There was something in Joseph, and there was something about him that in one encounter, Pharaoh could see that leadership was all over his life. Joseph's leadership journey, if you trace the story right back, actually started in the depths of a well, in darkness, limitations, no way out. Instead of the darkness and the betrayal and the tragedy breaking Joseph, it actually catalyzed something of God in him that began a personal leadership journey that prepared him to lead a nation. And I'm talking this week about Beyond Church Leadership Culture leads from the inside out. Next week, I'm going to talk about Beyond Church Leadership Culture is spirit-led leadership, and Beyond Church Leadership Culture on our final week before we head off on our sabbatical. Well, actually, we've got a week after that, but we won't be having a call. Beyond Church Leadership Culture is rested leadership. Good timing for that one, I guess. But today I just wanted to share about this particular cultural distinctive of Beyond Church Leadership Culture is that we are leaders that lead from the inside out. And so what that means is that we are the kind of leaders that lead our own lives first. We lead our own lives first because, in fact, I saw this on today online. I saw a quote from our good friend Pete Scazzero, who, have you got that on your phone, Rach, that Pete Scazzero quote? I was going to bring it to you, and I've only just remembered. Pete Scazzero posted something this morning from the Emotionally Healthy Leadership guy, and Rach might be able to find it for me because I can't access my device. Have a look, Rach, and see if you can find Pete Scazzero's. You got it? Do you want to unmute and just share that thought with us?
As go the leaders, so goes the church.
Yeah, that one. Just read that out for us.
As go the leaders, so goes the church. The overall health of any church or ministry primarily depends on the emotional and spiritual health of its leadership. In fact, the key to successful spiritual leadership has more to do with the leader's internal life than with the leader's expertise, gifts, or experience.
The key, that's right. The key to the health of what you lead actually has a lot more to do with you and your internal health. And that's what this is all about, leading from the inside out. If we can't lead ourselves well, then what we lead will not be well. And so I want to take us to Genesis chapter 41, because the story of Joseph, I feel, points to this concept so well. And if we read, this is Genesis 41, verse 38 to 40. And it's when Joseph has just interpreted Pharaoh's dreams, and he sets up for Pharaoh what Pharaoh needs to do to prepare for 7 years of famine. And so this is what Pharaoh says in verse 38. He says, "Then Pharaoh said to his officials, 'Isn't this the man we need?'" Speaking about Joseph. "Isn't this the man we need? Are we going to find anyone else who has God's spirit in him like this?" And so Pharaoh said to Joseph, "You're the man for us. God has given you the inside story. No one is as qualified as you in experience and wisdom. From now on, you are in charge of my affairs. All my people will report to you. Only as king will I be over you." I just think that's phenomenal. This guy literally comes from the prison, right? Imagine if you had someone walk in off the street, just got released from prison that day, and you establish him as the leader of the entire, you make him the Prime Minister of Australia. There was something in Joseph, and there was something about him that in one encounter, Pharaoh could see that leadership was all over his life. And Joseph's leadership journey, if you trace the story right back, actually started in the depths of a well. He started in darkness, limitations, no way out. But instead of the darkness and the betrayal and the tragedy breaking Joseph, it actually catalyzed something of God in him that began a personal leadership journey that prepared him to lead a nation. So Joseph had nothing to lead except himself. So he chose to do the only thing he could do, which is to resign himself to be the kind of person that when God needed a leader, he was ready to lead. And so God increased Joseph's influence, And it grew over time. He increased Joseph's influence in lockstep with Joseph's willingness to lead himself, because Joseph had to go through many of those trials and tests of discouragement, disappointment, heartbreak, misaccusations. And so Joseph displays right throughout his life integrity, which is an internal decision that you make. Integrity is all about what goes on inside. He had to show phenomenal integrity, diligence. So he had to work hard and really for no reward. He had to be trustworthy. He had to remain faithful for years and years and years. And not only that, but when he had opportunity, he had to exercise his gifts. So when he got an open window, bang, he'd exercise the gift that God had put on his life. There was no bartering or dealing with God. God, if you do this, then I'll do that. When there was opportunity, Joseph just did whatever was put in front of him. But he remained faithful, dealt with the stuff on the inside, led his heart well, led his mind well, demonstrated resilience. Again, that's something that you have to just deal with on the inside. He was humble. He was patient beyond measure, self-disciplined. Because this is what we know. In the well is where Joseph learnt to deal with what only he could control. And when we do in the dark, where no one else sees those decisions, what we do in that place, those actions, those behaviors, they determine what we can lead in the light. So what can we do? I just want to share very briefly 3 things that we can do to lead our own lives well, irrespective of where we might find ourselves. And these things will position us as leaders so that when the time comes, and for many of us, we already have this right now, influence, that we can influence others, that we can begin to build the qualities in our lives that will set us up to lead others with excellence. So there's 3 things that we can do. One is we can lead. These are the things that we have full control over. We can lead our time well. We can manage our time. Time is the one resource that we all share the same amount of. And even in Joseph's story, he could have wasted a lot of time in despondency, self-pity, discouragement. But what we see is that he maximized opportunities. He used his time well. He managed his time well in the palace, in the jail. When he got an audience in front of Pharaoh, he didn't waste opportunities. He managed his time well. And as leaders, as leaders with influence, as beyond church leaders that lead from the inside out, it's one thing that we have control over and should lead with excellence, and that's our time. And it's one of the reasons why as a church, we haven't fallen into the habit of waiting for people to turn up before we start. Like if we say that we've got a pre-service that starts at 8:30, we start at 8:30. Because if you're in the room at 8:30, you have done everything you can to be there. You've had to fight the good fight. You've had to deal with your own stuff. You had to get your kids organized. You are there. So it would be dishonoring you for us to start late when you've done all you can to be there. Sometimes people who turn up late feel like that they've been mistreated because we've already started without them. But what about everyone else that's there, that's done all the work to be on time? To make them wait is just as, in fact, it's more disrespectful for the people who've done the work. So we manage our time well, number 1. Number 2, I'm going to leave a little bit of time at the end. These are very quick for you to bring some feedback on what you think about this particular thought about leading from the inside out. Number 2, so lead your time well, lead yourself well, or lead your well-being. I think you could probably call this leading your own well-being. And Joseph did this as well. So taking care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, that's all vital for leadership. And Rachel's thought about that she shared from Pete Scazzero is all about this, prioritizing those, self-care activities such as exercise, adequate rest, healthy eating. These are all basic things, right? But they make a huge difference when it comes to how well you can lead other people. If you can't lead these areas in your life, then you won't be able to lead others with excellence. This sounds maybe a little bit confronting, but it's just the truth. It's just how things are. So we do need to do things like, have adequate rest, eat as healthy as we can, engage in activities that bring joy to your world, that rejuvenate you, that helps you to maintain your overall buoyancy and vibrancy as a leader. So when we do that, when we prioritize looking after ourselves, then we've got the energy and the mental clarity to lead and serve others effectively. So you're doing a disservice to the people that you're leading if you won't take care of yourself. So it's not always selfish. By looking after yourself, you're helping others by being a great leader for them. So lead your time, lead yourself, your well-being. And finally, like Joseph, sometimes we just have to do the work. And I love that about Joseph. He just did the work. He, took care, looked after looked after Potiphar's palace so well that he was promoted, looked after the jail so well, promoted. When he delivered the interpretation of the dreams, there was something on his life, the Spirit of God, that spirit of excellence. It was just like, wow, there's something about you. You're willing to do what you need to do to get it done. And also, I want to just add a bit of a twist to this for us as leaders. And I think for us, this is also about doing the work to continue to grow as leaders and continue to develop as leaders. I want our church leaders, our beyond church culture distinctive, to be leaders that are continually growing and learning. And a few weeks ago, Natalie shared, actually it was one of Natalie's goals for the year, was to do some courses. And, she's been doing that. And I think we should, that's really commendable. Rachel just wrapping up her Masters of Leadership. It's commendable. And even Denise having to learn how to do the new credentialing system. And, these are all things that as leaders, if we want to continue to grow and develop, it has to be at front of mind, that we're going to, the kind of people that do the work, do whatever it takes to continue to grow, develop, and not just do what is put on us, but also seek opportunities to grow in our knowledge, develop new skills. And I really kind of push on this a little bit too. And whenever I do, I'll just finish on this thought. Whenever I do regional credentialing interviews with PMCs and OMCs, provisional credential holders, and ordained minister credentials, I always ask the question, what do you like to read? And I'm always interested to see what some of the responses are about what people are reading. And almost always the most interesting people to interview are the people that read the most widely. And I think there's just something in that for us. Like, some people say, oh, look, I'm not a good reader. Well, I don't think that's an excuse. And I can say that because I'm not a good reader. Rachel can attest to this. Like, I'm slow, I'm picky, but, I do what I need to do to force myself to read and read widely. And I always love it. Like, when I finally get into a great book, whether it's a biography, whether it's a novel, whether it's, something on theology or leadership, I always love it. And, I think listening to books is also okay, but I would encourage people to read as well. But again, it's that whole idea of, are we intentionally engaging with content that's going to challenge us and grow us and stretch us and build empathy in us and understanding and knowledge? And so as beyond church leaders that lead from the inside out, if we aren't putting good stuff in, we're not going to be able to bring quality to the people that we're leading. So do the work, grow and develop as a leader. Read, be at conferences, do short courses, and finally prioritize relationships with mentors as well in terms of doing the work. Like, just find good people that are going to speak into you and encourage you and build you up as a leader. So they're the three things: time, well-being, and professional or personal development.